Get ready for some real, honest conversation. I'm your host, Camilla. Grab your coffee, tea, or whatever's in your cup, have a seat, and let's talk about it. That makes sense? So anyways, we can get started talking about maple syrup. So let's start with this question then. At what age or point in your life did you get into maple syrup, and what drew you to this craft?
Just trying to think. I started when I had the farm at the end of the road on McKinnon Side Road in 92, and I tapped probably 50 to 60 maple trees on the back property there.
Mm-hmm.
And basically that's when I started making maple syrup. So
what drew you to the craft? Like, what made you interested in, like, oh, I've got like these 50 trees, I think I'll tap them?
That's basically how it went.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And did you ever no previous experience or chatting with other people about?
Well, years ago, when I was living in Manitouwadge, there's no maple there, but there's white birch.
Okay.
So I tapped white birch, but it was quite a laborious process because it's 120 to 1. You need 120 liters of sap to make 1 liter of birch syrup.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It's huge.
And birch trees aren't typically that, like,
they produce a lot of sap.
Oh, they do?
They do. They will produce a lot of sap.
Yeah.
But it got to the point that they were boiling and really not getting anywhere. So I experimented about making vinegar. So I started making some birch vinegar.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So that's how I got started in the vinegar end of things. So I do actually make a maple sap vinegar as well.
Oh, wow. And okay, so then with a maple sap vinegar, what would you use that for?
Anything you use regular vinegar for. Yeah, it's kind of good substitute for like apple cider vinegar or malt vinegar.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got a little sweetness to it. It's got the mapley sweetness to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's and very healthy.
Right.
It's actually not a lot of people will just drink apple cider vinegar.
Yeah.
As a cleanser.
Yeah.
Maple sap vinegar is better than apple cider vinegar.
Okay, so now with that said, because I know that apple cider vinegar has like that mother in it.
Yes.
So would you have that in it too?
Yes. Yeah, it has a mother. Yeah. So I actually had the mother. So anytime I would make maple sap vinegar, I would add the mother to it. So you don't use syrup, you actually use sweeter sap.
Wow.
So you'll have to boil the sap to a certain percentage.
Yeah.
And then I add the vinegar mother and let it ferment.
Okay.
So it's usually good vinegar in about 3 years.
Holy crap, that's a long time.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so that's a process.
Yeah.
And so with this production here, do you still do that, or is that more like a side gig?
It's a side part, and I made a barrel last year, so it's still fermenting.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I didn't do any this year because I do have quite a bit on hand.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So one of my questions for you was, have you tried making syrup from other trees like birch? Have you tried any other type of trees?
No,
just the birch, eh?
Yeah.
Because I don't think we have walnut trees up here, do we?
We do not.
Yeah.
No.
That's too bad.
They do make, walnuts they tap walnuts to make walnut syrup. I've never tried it, so I don't know what it's like.
Yeah, okay.
But, yeah, we do not have walnut trees.
You mentioned you started with about 50 trees?
Yep.
So with this whole thing going on, how many trees do you have tapped?
Well, I have 2 properties. So I have this bush and I have the one across the road. So approximately 1,500 taps on each property. So close to 3,000 taps.
Okay, that's a lot. And with that many, you had mentioned that you're on the vacuum system. And my question about that is, or actually even when you started the first time, did you do buckets to start?
Yes, I did.
So can you talk about the difference between like using the vacuum system and buckets, and kind of like, I don't know, your pros and cons, or what you dislike about any of those?
Yeah, so I was up to probably close to 500 buckets at one point in this bush, and it just got too much work.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a big enough evaporator to boil all that sap. So I switched from buckets to lines, and gradually put more on, and I always did. So when I went to lines, I started with a vacuum system.
Okay.
So that way, so I think I started probably with at least 1,000
Okay.
taps.
And so with the vacuum system, how does it work? So you've got your hole in the tree,
Yes.
and then do you put the hose like in there to?
You actually have, so I use a double spout system. So I use a disposable spile, which actually, so when you drill the tree, you put a disposable spile in it,
Mhm.
and the actual spile goes out over top of that disposable spile.
Okay.
And that stays on the drop line year after year.
Oh.
But the actual insert
Mm-hmm.
into the tree is disposable.
So those you would have to change out? Is that
Change those every year. Yeah.
okay? One of my questions too was when you're tapping the trees, like at the end of the season, would you re-close those holes,
Nope.
or they're just open the whole
They
time?
naturally will heal themselves.
Oh, naturally themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you retap for the following year, is it roughly in the same spot, or
Nope.
do you kind of move it around?
No, you have to move it around. You have to move from last year's hole 2 inches over and 12 inches either above or below.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So otherwise, so that hole that you drilled this year will introduce a stain in that wood, and basically it's kind of dead wood. So you do not want to tap into that stained wood the next season. So after every year, I paint. I put a little paint mark where my hole was this year, and I use different colors from year to year.
Okay.
So I know which hole I tapped last year. So, and it makes it so much easier to find last year's hole if you paint it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of like, it makes me think of people who have to do, I don't know, like diabetes, like those insulin injections. They can't keep injecting in the same site because that scar tissue builds up, and then you can't really, poke through that. Going back to the methods, like obviously you prefer the vacuum system versus the buckets because it's a bit easier, less cleanup.
It's just a lot less labor.
A lot less labor.
Yeah, because if you have buckets, you have to check those buckets every day. Yeah. And quite often, sometimes twice a day.
Because they're open on the top, right?
No, there should be a lid on them.
There should be. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because then you don't want
debris or snow or rain or anything getting in.
That's true.
Yeah.
And would you happen to know for the tree's health if like a vacuum system is a bit more strenuous on the tree or gentler? Do you know what I mean?
I do. A tree will naturally give up its sap.
Okay.
So you cannot force sap out of the tree. It helps the sap when the tree wants to give up the sap, the vacuum will help it along. So you can actually get more sap only because of the vacuum. But the tree, if it doesn't want to give up its sap, you cannot suck it out of the tree.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. So it's not like you're actually forcing that liquid out.
And we claim, Maple Research, that a tap hole only uses maybe 1% of the tree's resources.
Oh.
So it's not really harsh on the tree.
Yeah. Because I guess if you think about it, like maple trees, they have this sap for a reason.
Well, they do. It's to basically make the chlorophyll to grow the tree to.
Yeah, I guess we should have started with like the physiology of a tree.
Yeah, my physiology, it might be a little off, but it's basically, the sap is needed to. But I do know that the sap is stored in the root system for the next season. So after this year's growth, all the sugars that the tree produces from the leaf structure get stored into the root system. Next year, you're utilizing that sap that got stored from this year for next year's sap production. Okay.
And I remember one of our previous conversations, you had mentioned how depending on the weather, something about like when it gets like too warm or too cold.
Well, you need a freeze thaw cycle. So you need freezing at nighttime and you need thawing in the daytime. But you can't have it too warm in the daytime. Some days, like in years past, we've had in the middle of a season, it's gone up to 20 degrees. The trees, I don't think, know what to do.
Right.
But then if you don't have a freeze cycle at nighttime, the sap will just automatically stay. So this year we had a cycle of like 6 nights that it didn't freeze. So basically the sap was done.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So it needs to freeze at night, thaw in the daytime. But it does. You don't want -20 at night either, because then everything's just froze solid.
Right. So done being like you can't like, or meaning the vacuum system won't pull anything out.
No, because the tree is basically, so the sap has gone
Wow.
up the tree and it's not coming down.
That's what it was. Yeah, something about it going up higher instead
Yeah.
of coming down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so fascinating. Okay, and then the maple syrup season is a short one,
Yes.
right?
It quite often will. Some years it started in February, which is early.
Right.
Usually it's March, April. So there's usually weeks in March that it will thaw to get the freeze thaw cycle. The first few weeks of April are usually your syrup making days, but there again, this year wasn't that great either. So
No way.
no,
Okay, so because we've had a long winter up here.
we've had a long winter,
Yeah.
but it hasn't been a good freeze thaw cycle.
Oh, I see. Okay, so that obviously matters.
Yeah. So you still want it thawing in the daytime. If you still have like 0, -1 in the daytime, you're not going to get sap, which we had a lot of this year too.
Yeah. Yeah, the weather's been weird.
But it didn't get very warm in the daytime.
Yeah.
So you need like +5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And it's currently snowing. So that's
and
great.
It is currently snowing, and it is May the 13th.
May the 13th.
Or 12th. Yeah,
May 12th. May 12th. Yeah.
May 12th, yeah.
Gosh. Okay, so we did touch on reverse osmosis.
Yes.
So that was something new to me when I was like researching a bit about maple syrup. I obviously don't know much about it. That's why this topic is interesting. So can you just go over again, like how the reverse osmosis plays in with the sap and everything?
Yes. So sap is normally at 2% Brix, which is the sugar content of sap. So it'll vary depending on the time of year. It could be as low as 1.5%, or it could be as high as close to 4%. So this year, I've had some days that it was over 3% sugar. So what the RO does is, so the sap going in at say 2 Brix, you can take it through the RO and bring it out at say 10 Brix. And it depends on how you dial your RO in. So basically it takes about approximately 3/4 of the water out of the sap. So you're left with, so if you got 2% Brix sap going in, you've got about 10% coming out. So you're taking probably 3/4 of the water out of that sap.
Okay, and that percentage, is that like on your machine that you can tell if it's like a 3%?
Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't give you the percent, but I check with a refractometer when it comes off to see what it actually is. So basically, you've got sweet sap going into your feed tank.
Wow. Have you ever tried the sap directly out of the tree?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just takes a lot longer to boil.
Yeah.
So your boil time when you put it through the RO is you've downed it by 3/4 of the time.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there are people out there who do the sap stuff. Seeing as some people probably, when they tap trees, and let's say they're using buckets, like a tiny little production, and they would probably boil it over a fire or something.
Yes.
Right. So that would take obviously a really long time, and you just let it.
Takes a long time. Yep. So and I did that initially.
Okay.
Yeah. So you would just keep adding sap to your boiling, and because I just had a small pan, so you'd have to make sure that you didn't burn this sap that's going into the pan. So you just have basically keep adding sap to it till you actually get it to a syrup content.
And so did you have like a learning curve with that where you burnt a lot of syrup?
I never burned any.
Oh, really?
No.
A natural?
No, I don't. Well, I guess maybe I took it off before it got too, before. Yeah, I just make sure that it didn't boil dry.
That makes sense. Yeah. So I'm sure people spend hours upon hours just sitting because like you'd have to watch it, right? You can't
Yeah.
set it and then let's say
No,
go to sleep and wake up in
no,
a
because
couple
you
of
got if
hours.
you're on wood, you got to keep feeding the fire.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
you use a lot of wood when you're doing the outside, fire process, and you basically you're boiling day and night.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
that's the difference between just boiling raw sap as compared to putting it through an RO.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I did that, boiled day and night.
With lots of coffee.
Lots of coffee and a lot of cold nights.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
When it comes to the maple tree, is there a way to identify like a sugar maple versus another type of maple tree?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you can't just find a maple tree and be like, oh, I'm going to tap that. And
usually, like the majority of the trees in the bushes that I tap are sugar maple, but there's red maple as well, which is soft maple. So sugar maple is hard maple, red maple is soft maple.
Okay.
And they both produce sap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so you can make maple syrup out of both of them.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
And do you find that one either tastes better or produces better than the other?
No, about the same.
Oh, about the same.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Well, it's all mixed anyway. So if I'm tapping a sugar maple and a red maple, all the sap gets mixed.
Oh, okay. Okay, so out here you have like a combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
I see. Okay. And then we did talk about the 40-to-1 rule. So I found that it takes approximately 40 gallons of raw maple sap to produce 1 gallon of finished maple syrup.
Yes.
So this question that I have is, with your production here, how much sap do you collect from one tree usually?
Theoretically, a tree should produce 1 liter of syrup in a season. So if 1 liter syrup, so it should give you 40 liters of sap.
Right. Okay. So
that's theoretically.
Right. Yeah. Because that doesn't always happen.
A lot of people in Southern Ontario actually get more than that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they do. Do
you know why that is?
I think it has a lot to do with the tree and the weather. So trees with huge crowns will give out more sap than a bush that has smaller crowns.
Right. I guess that makes sense because there's like more.
Oh yeah, a lot more foliage too. Yeah.
Interesting. The other thing that I came across was about sugar sand or niter.
Yeah.
So mineral sediment that precipitates out of maple sap during the boiling process.
Yes.
Can you expand on that, or is that pretty much it?
No, it's so basically, so the sap, so the roots are collecting the sugar sand that they call the sugar sands. So it's coming in. You cannot see it in the sap and you can't taste it in the sap. It's just after the boiling process that you will get. Some years are worse than others for sugar sand. But what happens is, so whatever is in that sugar sand, it produces a niter, and the niter is it's almost like a calcium. It looks like a calcium buildup on the side of your pans, and it's really difficult to get off. Right.
Okay. So then obviously that's part of the filtering system, I believe.
Well, it's the tree filtering system, but what you need to do is to avoid having a buildup of sugar sands, you have to clean your pans like daily.
Right.
So after you boil, you got to clean your pans.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you will have a tendency of burning syrup if you don't clean your pans. If you got a buildup of sugar sand and niter on the pans.
Okay. So then that would be different with like when you open a bottle of maple syrup and then it starts to like crystallize.
If it starts to crystallize, quite often the sugar or the syrup is made beyond 68, 69 bricks, usually around 70 bricks, you'll get crystallized, your syrup will crystallize. So what happens if you boil your syrup too much, you package it, but after a while, the sugar crystals will form crystals. So what will happen to your syrup is it will automatically revert to 66 bricks, and whatever was in that syrup is now your crystal. So if it was 70 bricks, you've got sugar crystals, but your syrup is back to 66 bricks.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So basically what it's done is take the excess sugar out and formed a crystal.
And okay, I'm trying to think how to ask this question. Like for selling purposes or whatever, does that affect the product that is being sold, or not really?
What you're doing is affecting your sales by basically boiling the sap beyond what you should be. So you're using a lot more sap, and then you're not getting the syrup that you should be getting.
Okay, so we have like an open bottle of maple syrup in the fridge.
Yeah.
We don't use maple syrup often. Every
Right.
once in a while we'll make like a, I don't know, fun breakfast or something like that.
Yeah.
Or even have breakfast for dinner sometimes.
Yes.
So so you take the bottle out of the fridge.
Yeah.
I just thought of a weird story. And you crack the cap open and it's all just crystals.
Okay. So that's normal.
That's normal.
That's just
okay.
normal.
Okay.
So basically, that's all that is the syrup is crystallizing on the cap.
Yeah.
Yeah. But quite often, if you have syrup that crystallizes in the bottom, that actually gets crystals.
Okay.
That's when it's been boiled too much.
Okay. So I'm going to share a little embarrassing story because of my age and stuff. It was only recently, probably going back like 6 years maybe, that I found out that table syrup is not maple syrup because we grew up on table syrup.
Right. Yeah.
And we never put ours in the fridge. We always just left it in the cabinet.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a bit of a shocker to me that there's like actual maple syrup and it's not table syrup. That's my embarrassing story. Okay, we kind of touched on this with like plugging the hole. So my question is there a way to properly plug it after tapping to ensure the tree heals? But then you had also mentioned that the tree will just heal itself.
The tree naturally will heal itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Years ago, we used to plug the hole. Of course, years ago, didn't have what you call a health spile now, so there's health spiles. But we always use a 9/16 bit, which is a pretty big hole. And we used to put a cork in it. But you don't anymore. So we don't drill 9/16 holes. It's very small diameter hole, and the tree will heal itself automatically.
And then to drill the hole, how deep in is it? Like to the kind of center-ish, or
no? You only want to go into the actual sap layer but drill in about 1.25 inches.
Okay, so trees have layers, obviously.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, and so we talked about like you mark the holes so that you don't drill in the same spot. How many times can you tap the same tree, and how many consecutive years can that be done before the tree's kind of like, hey, I'm done, and you have to move on?
No, that's the reason for when you tap. This year you move 2 inches over every year. So by the time you get around the tree, that all the holes have already healed up. So you can actually, so basically a tree will probably put on probably an eighth to quarter of an inch. It all depends on the year.
Yeah.
Of growth. So after 10 years, you should have at least another inch of growth on that tree. Okay, so the tree after 10 years has grown another maybe close to 2 inches. So when you get back around again, you're into free wood again.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so as long as the tree is living, you can tap away.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. That's really cool. Another question I have is, what are some signs that a sugar bush is being over-tapped? Have you ever experienced anything like that?
No, but there are criteria to tapping a tree. So you don't want to tap a tree less than 9 inches in diameter.
Okay.
Okay, so you should start at a minimum 9 inches and 1 tap per tree until you get a tree in diameter of roughly 30 inches. You can put 2 taps in the tree.
Okay.
Okay, but theoretically 1 tap is probably.
Okay, so that's what they mean by over tapping. If, like, let's say you saw one tree that had 4 buckets hanging on it, for example.
Yeah, that's too much.
That's too much. Okay, and that could potentially kill the tree, or just kind of.
Probably wouldn't kill it, but it could set it back, that its health. And usually that tree that big, if they've got 4 buckets, a tree is huge in diameter, and they don't put much growth on in a year after that because they're probably 200 or 300 years old at that stage.
Right. Is it common to have lighter syrup at the end of the season?
No, in the beginning.
In the beginning?
Yes.
Okay, and how do you find that affects your production, or you don't find it does?
It doesn't affect the production, but usually the start of the season, you'll get lighter syrup. Your syrup will produce lighter colored syrup.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the season progresses, it gets darker.
Mm-hmm.
So usually mid-season, you're usually getting amber. And then at the end of the season, you're getting more dark.
Oh, okay. And would you use the sap from the beginning of the season?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Everything.
Although the first tapping is basically you're flushing all your lines with the first sap. The first sap in my experience, doesn't make good syrup.
Mm-hmm.
So you flush your lines and usually, a couple of days in the first runs. And once your lines are clean, because at the end of the season, I clean with isopropyl alcohol. So all my lines have isopropyl alcohol in them. So you have to flush that out. So the first sap comes in, flushes that isopropyl out.
Okay. So how do you do that? Because you've got like a big production going on here. So how do
So you basically, on tap, you have to visit every tree and you inject isopropyl alcohol, usually 10 milliliters per tap.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then at the end of every line, you give it a gulp on the end of every main line. So it comes into the main line.
Oh my gosh. That's like a whole thing.
Oh, yeah. It's like when you tap, you're untapping, you're visiting the tree all the time.
Yeah. Wow. That's okay. So you're out there a lot then, obviously, during the season. And yeah.
Plus, you get all these heavy winds, high winds, and you get branches coming down, trees coming down.
Yeah.
They'll fall on your lines and your main lines.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So we did talk a bit about weather and how it affects the maple syrup. So I think you touched on it a little bit earlier for this year because we did have a long winter, but you said that the freeze-thaw cycle was a little off.
Yeah. So
how did you find this year has been for production?
Not good for me.
Okay.
No. And I think a lot of people, I've heard that production was down this year. So.
Across the board.
Yeah.
And so in even like past years, including this year, have there been any challenges that you faced?
Well, when you get this last winter with 2 rainfalls in the middle of the winter, you've got 2 ice crusts. We had a huge amount of snow.
Yep.
A lot of the main lines were buried, so you had to shovel all the main lines out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was. This isn't the first winter that's happened, but
yeah. I think that it's been a while since we've had a winter like this.
Yeah.
And when we have a winter like this, like with all the rain and freezing that we've had, do you find that any of your lines actually break, or do they sustain it pretty well?
No, the lines are pretty resilient.
Okay.
Yeah, they can withstand a lot, and they can even stand the freeze-thaw cycle. So yeah. So the lines can be frozen, but they'll still thaw.
So if someone was looking to get into making maple syrup, what would you suggest, like equipment wise? What would they need, or for tapping a tree? Yeah.
Where to start? It's well, I guess it depends on how many trees you want to tap,
right? And
whether you just want to get into like a small, production for the family.
So if, let's say in their backyard they had like, I don't know, 2 maple trees.
You probably couldn't get enough sap to make syrup with 2 trees. So you'd need probably a minimum like 10 trees just to.
Okay.
Yeah, get enough sap so you can actually boil.
Right.
And make a boil to make some syrup.
I see. Can you save sap from one year to the next?
No. Well, you probably could if you froze it.
Okay. So someone with like 2 trees could collect over years?
No, I wouldn't. No.
That would be a process.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the whole process and how it looks, from the tapping to the filtering to, the whole thing down to the bottle.
Okay. So I usually start tapping in January.
Okay.
So it takes, I can probably get, depends on the snow conditions, 200 to 300 to 400 taps a day.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it'll take 3 to 4 weeks for me to get tapped.
Okay.
And then you wait for the Mother Nature to do her thing, and hopefully the sap starts coming in, and then I'll start the vacuum system up and get the sap coming in, flush the lines to start with, and then from there it goes into the the big tank.
Yeah.
So I have a 5,000 gallon sap tank, and then from the sap tank goes into the RO. From the RO, it goes up into the feed tank.
Mm-hmm.
And so the water that comes off the RO, it's called permeate water, and you have to save that water to flush the RO when you've done ROing your sap.
Oh.
Because the membranes are still got a lot of sugar in them, so they have to be flushed out.
Mm-hmm.
So you need them like a minimum 1,000 gallons of permeate water to flush the membranes.
Okay.
Okay. And then, so from the feed tank goes through into the flue pan, and into the flue pan, there's a series of serpentine preheater pipes. So the sap coming into the flue pan gets preheated once the evaporator's turned on, preheated, and it goes into the flue pan, and it's computerized. So the computer will tell you when the sap is getting either low in the flue pan, so it will open valves,
okay,
automatic valves, to let more sap into the flue pan, and the same with the syrup pans. So it's on a level that it will not, so hopefully it doesn't get below that level. And yeah, by the end, so sap going in is probably at 10 bricks going into the flue pan, and coming out is 67, 68 bricks.
Okay, wow.
And then from the syrup, you dump it into your collector pans, and then it's processed through a filter press. And from the filter press goes into your bottler, and from the bottler, it's preheated syrup comes off at 180 degrees Fahrenheit into whatever bottles that you want to put it in.
And then when you're done, you have to clean that out too, right?
Yeah, that's cleaned as well.
Yeah. And so going back to what you said about tapping in January, so at that point you're checking out the weather and that whole.
I just want to be tapped before weather starts to.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want to have all the trees tapped.
Okay.
Okay.
Just to have it done early, kind of check it off your list. I see. Okay.
Because sometimes, like we've had runs in February. Like,
oh wow.
Yeah. So
you're still keeping an eye on the weather to track like how things are going and when it could potentially be.
Every day you're checking the weather, make sure. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, cool. That's super neat. All right. Anything else you want to add about the maple syrup?
Can't think of anything.
No, we've covered a lot. It's quite a production. It's who would have thought that there is such a such a process to it, right?
Yeah, it is. It's quite the process.
Yeah. And so if you are tapping, there is a possibility, let's say if someone doesn't know or is just starting out, that you can drill a little too far into the tree and you miss that layer.
Yeah, so sap really just comes up the basically inside the bark. So you got that cambium layer that the sap runs in. So basically beyond that layer, the tree is it's not dead. It's still alive, but there's no sap in the middle of your tree.
Right.
It's just on the outside layer. So you could drill in too far, but anybody that wants to drill should have a stop on their drill.
Okay.
And so.
Interesting. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I don't have any more questions. Even from talking, you've answered some of my questions as well. So it's pretty good. Okay. And then it gets bottled and off to the market it goes.
Sold.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, hopefully it sells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find that the selling of maple syrup is pretty decent up around here?
Yeah, actually it is. Yeah. Yeah, I've got a pretty good clientele. People like my syrup, so they keep coming back.
Yeah, which is good because I know that up here there's a lot of like sugar bushes and maple syrup production, so it's a bit of a competition.
Yeah, I don't really find much that I have any competition, but there's a lot of syrup producers and they seem to get rid of it also.
Nice.
Yeah.
Maple syrup, Canada's liquid gold.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for sitting down with me. I appreciate all the information.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah.